So we're ready to go. Lord, just I pray that we will. Welcome, everyone, this morning. We are talking today, Krissa and I. Hello, Krissa. Welcome,
Morning.
Krissa. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We are talking today about the crime of the 21st century, elder scamming. The scamming of the elderly is the crime of the 21st century. So we've had a couple things that have happened just in the last couple of weeks in Dallas that have made the news. And we're just going to talk about senior scams and what you can do to help prevent these scams to our precious seniors. One story that just came out was about a contractor, who placed ads on Craigslist and found elderly. It was a contractor to help with home repair and doing additions or adding grab bars, adding handicap ramps. So this guy wound up getting caught. What he would do is ask for a deposit. One family gave him $21,000. So he worked with 7 or 8 families and showed up for work on the first day, and then they never heard from him again. So the guy got caught. He got 47 years in prison, as well as a huge monetary fine. And we have got to have stronger fines, stronger laws, and stronger punishment to combat this terrible crime that's going on.
When I feel like too, like even on Craigslist and other, and I know you do a little bit more research on this, but Craigslist and other places, I know there's different websites and different just places people can go to look for contractors for their parents or for their own home and get scammed. I mean, it's a whole other podcast talking about normal scamming on Craigslist and other places. But there needs to be more stricter laws, like you said, on what they can even post. They need to do a background check or, a legitimacy check. I know that would be more legwork and more cost, and I get all that. But that really would help protect our seniors and the families of our seniors, protect them against that as well. Because just looking at the statistics now is that I was reading something about growing demand for long-term care, and part of going into the long-term care process is hiring people like this contractor that got busted. Praise the Lord, he was busted. That were hired to do this, and the family didn't know. I mean, it's just like when you're sending a loved one into facilities or into assisted living or whatever it is, skilled rehab, and we don't do our proper research on it.
Yeah, you're at their mercy.
You're at their mercy, and so 10% have dementia, which also adds to that as well. So it's just really just praying on how we can how to protect our precious seniors and the families and get this stuff stopped. So I know you have a list of...
I do. And one thing, if someone does need home repair, always, of course, look at the reviews on the internet. If you're already on the internet going to Craigslist, look at reviews, but call your Better Business Bureau. If someone has a home health involved or hospice, they have a social worker that works full-time. They can direct you to reputable companies. I know cost is an issue, and I think sometimes people will use the person that gives them the best quote, not knowing whether or not they're going to be scammed or taken advantage of. When my husband and I bought our first home, we were broke. It was before I went to nursing school, and we needed for our dryer, for our washer and dryer, we needed a outlet change from a 110 to a 210. It was supposedly a simple $100. Well, this guy came out and worked all day, bringing wires back and forth on his phone. Long story short, he billed Matt and I over $800 for this repair.
Wow.
And we couldn't afford it. I remember my grandmother said, Joe, let me help you. That'll be your housewarming gift from Granddaddy and I. So my grandmother paid the bill for us. We couldn't afford it. And about 6 months later, this particular guy was on the news because he had been scamming people, young couples and elderly, and telling them that they needed more work done or had a catastrophe, fire hazard, and you just trust the electrician or trust the person. This person we found in the phone book, and this was years ago, but I do remember what a helpless feeling it was, and I was embarrassed. I felt stupid,
Yeah.
but we did what we could afford, and this is what's going on with seniors as well. I heard about a patient, or not a patient, a senior in Dallas. I just heard about this at lunch yesterday, that he was told that he won the lottery. He won $1 million lottery, but he had to write a check for $10,000. He got a call about this. Congratulations, you've won the lottery. We're going to need to come and pick up a check for $10,000. What does he do but write that check? He's so excited. And fortunately, the person was prosecuted, but it can just happen anytime, so we just always have to be on alert. So here's some things for seniors or adult children of seniors, tips to avoid Craigslist scams. And I use Craigslist. I found great things and great buys. So it's just being cautious. I'm not here to bash Craigslist, but it's just to be cautious. One thing is stay local. If somebody is advertising somewhere, make sure it's a local phone number. Do research as well. And I know there are a lot of area codes here in Dallas now. It's not just 214 like it used to be, but always do research. Try to stay local, and recognize that local phone number, okay? Avoid doing wire transfers, cashier's checks, or money orders. Avoid giving your credit card number over the phone unless you know that person. If it's a family member, but always avoid the wire transfers. Be cautious when using online escrow. If somebody calls about, hey, I know you want to live in your home and stay longer in your home. Well, we can do a reverse mortgage. Just meet those people in person, do your homework, get your adult children involved. Adult children insist on getting involved with your parent. Do not commit to things without seeing the goods in person. Never trust that person over the phone or online. Don't fall for job scams. This is exactly this story about these people falling for a handyman who's available to help seniors. Just don't fall for that. Always do your homework. And remember, Craigslist does not verify or certify listings. So when somebody lists something on Craigslist, you still have to do that check. We've had at Acappella, we have people come in that look like the Mary Poppins, the reality show Mary Poppins. They come in, they have the best resume, well-spoken, well-dressed. They appear professional. And then we do their background check, and their background's 3 pages long.
Yeah.
And so you can never judge a book by its cover. Same thing. Always remember that Craigslist is not certifying these people that are presenting themselves. Even people presenting themselves as they love seniors and they want to work with seniors and looking for a job.
Yeah.
A lot of times they are looking for someone to rob.
So basically thinking of, I know the senior population and the older generation, really thinking of Craigslist as the modern newspaper. Because in newspapers in the past, you paid a minimal amount to have anything posted or, put in the paper. And just like you said in the phone book, that man that was in the phone book, you think, oh, you're in the phone book, you must be legit. That's what I would think. And he wasn't. He was scamming young couples and elderly. So I think to get the mindset of really understanding what Craigslist is, to just kind of associate it as the modern newspaper, maybe.
And if you know of someone that's taking advantage, don't stay silent, because if they're doing it to your loved one, they're doing it to somebody else. If they can get away one time, they can get away 10 times.
If you see that they're doing it
right
to somebody else, or you hear about
or
it.
you know. I know with my case with the electrician, I remember I was so mad about it. I called one of the news stories, the news stories, about how people scam. So always make a stink. And if somebody's doing something that's not right, be vocal. Share your story. If you have a bad experience, you can put those reviews on Yelp too. So even people with the best reputation, sometimes, like I say, the book is, you can't always judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
So always do your homework. If something is not being handled correctly, then address it. I know with us, with Acappella, if there's a problem, we're like white on rice on that problem. And that is the way I like to do things. If we're not providing the best care we can, then we need to address it. And we're not perfect. We do our best. But we do need to address it and learn from mistakes we make. Everybody makes mistakes.
It's putting the front end work into selecting those people and background checks and drug screenings and everything. Just recently, Acappella had an employee that was going to be hired, and during the process of we go to the restroom and do our drug test, she refused to do it. And so now we're back at square one to find this much needed player on our team because of that. And so it's better now than knowing in the future, and the agency getting in trouble for it, or, whatever it is. So a little extra legwork, a little extra cost for really, really good drug test, and the people behind all that to do all that work is going to be pay off dividends in the future.
It's just protection. Okay, the second story, and this was so disturbing. I was actually out of town, and my husband called me when this story was on the news last week. But there was a Texas man who worked as a caregiver, worked as a handyman in several of the high-end senior communities in Dallas, and he has been charged with killing 12 elderly women. And the police now are looking at 750 deaths, other deaths that he may be possibly linked to.
Oh, my word.
And what he would do is go in, knock on the door as a handyman. Hey, the management sent me over to take a look at your sink. And then he would make them get in bed, and he'd smother them and steal their jewelry. And so this is so disturbing. This gentleman worked with several very high-end communities, and I know for a fact those communities do their background checks. They do their research, and it just goes to show how easily someone can slip through the cracks if you are not doing the proper checking. This particular man used two different names. So he must have had a fake Social Security card. He must have had a fake driver's license. So he was working. He knew exactly what he was doing, and was just preying on these poor, sweet little women. And when somebody's frail and elderly, and they've got, let's say, they're diabetic, they've got congestive heart failure, they've got lung disease, they might have a recurring cancer. If they die in their sleep, who's going to suspect any wrongdoing? But as a hospice nurse, I will say that does happen. People just pass. But usually, when somebody is declining, it's going to be a process. They're going to, it's going to be a process, a journey in that dying process. So you're going to know when they're close and declining and they stop eating. And so just dying suddenly like that, even in the senior community, is not that common. Anyway, so just talking about how this guy got through at these top high-end communities, just talking about from the layperson's perspective, if they are looking for care, what what are we going to do? So how do we at Acappella, share with us like just the rigorous and I know, but just when people come in to apply, I will bet 1 in every 12 even gets an interview.
Yes.
And so let's talk about that, about people coming in to apply. Sometimes we've had situations where we've had women come in with their husbands.
Yes.
And sometimes with their kids. That is a big red flag to me.
Huge.
Because of privacy and HIPAA laws. If somebody's going to bring their family to an interview, how do we not know they're going to bring that family to the job?
Yes.
So that's a red flag. What are some other red flags that we look at?
Well, it's people that come in that really have no concept of even application fill out process, just kind of basic. Because when you look at it, you think about it, oh, it's just a normal, we all go apply for jobs. This is the process. These are the standard things that you always have with you, especially in healthcare field and home health, CPR, TB, your license, your insurance, all those types of things. And if that's kind of like, a surprise, that's your first red flag. Because even, coming in when I first started and was at the front desk, and people would come in and I'm talking to them and trying, having a great, upbeat conversation just to show who this is Acappella, this is who we are, just to see if they fit in the first place. And we have to be able to just really have that good communication and that good rapport to begin with. But it really is. And the fear of animals, the fear of other things. And I know we all have our own vices. We all have our own things that we're afraid of. And that's kind of a more superficial type of thing, when it comes to our level of care and what we expect. But it's true. It goes through such vigorous questions that our HR department is, even with each person, as they're coming in, making, as the HR department is coming, to the foyer to talk to the applicant, make copies of their license and everything they have, they're asking very detailed, very interview questions just from the first meeting to then start vetting people to see if they're going to be a good fit. And I feel like the level of care that we expect is the level of care that most facilities and most agencies would hope to achieve. And I mean that by the grace of God, that's what we strive for, is that level of excellence. But it's work, and there's always those people that, the Mary Poppins, that kind of answer everything perfectly and look the part, and then won't go to the bathroom to do the drug test, or in the middle of orientation, after all the expectations are laid out, they're gone. And it's wasted time, it's wasted effort. But we go through that process to ensure that we are selecting the right people for the client, because that's what we expect. And it is a lot of work, and it's hard work, but it pays off, because when the client's happy and when they're safe and their family knows that their family member is safe, especially at home, people want to age in place. Which goes to the, what we're talking about, the whole scam situation. But people do want to age in place. And if they are going to choose a facility to put their loved one in, if they are going to choose an agency to put, to help care for their loved one, that's super personal, and that's a high honor. And so being able to vet those people, and the drug tests, random drug tests, that's a given. Just screenings. There's also opportunities to do visits in the home. I know for our agency in particular, monthly visits, we call them supervisory visits, where unannounced. We pop in, make sure that everything is good to go, make sure the client's taken care of, that our representative is professional, has the name badge. I mean, the whole thing. And there have been times where, some of our caregivers get a little comfortable, and, we are made aware of that, and it's addressed. And either they aren't with us anymore, or the attitude and behavior has to change, and we follow up with that. So I feel like that's also another important part, private duty speaking, just to make sure that everything is way above board and reproach, and done with excellence. And just thinking about how, if this person had a clean background and passed a drug test and all of those things, what were maybe some signs that were missed, or that maybe in such our busy everyday world, especially with Acappella. I mean, we're so blessed to be just blowing up with our business, and it's amazing. And we still need to take that time and opportunity to not be in our box, because I get in my box. I'm like, there's tasks and they have to get done. But how do we make sure, and what extra steps can we take in facilities, in skilled nursing, in nursing homes, to make sure that these things don't happen?
Yeah. And I know at facilities or communities, from the more modest communities to the very high luxury, they all have somebody at the desk. You've got to sign in. And I think, with the busyness, somebody might sign in and look like they're a nurse. They're not checking IDs. They're not checking, credentials. And so I think that is a step where we're protected, that we're in the home, and we've got a caregiver, but they've got to have stricter rules allowing people into the community. And one thing too, I know that even at the nicest communities, they do tell people when they're moving in, don't bring your nicest stuff. Keep stuff in a lockbox.
Yes.
If you love jewelry, then rotate it out and keep it at home. And then for the month you want this type of jewelry, keep it in a lockbox, and then mom can wear the jewelry. But unfortunately, people are looking, and that's not at just the
No.
We had a patient that we took care of over the years, and she lived in a Medicaid nursing home. She did have the luxury of having a cell phone, and she was the only resident in this community of 200 that had a cell phone, and she had to keep it in a diaper so that nobody would steal it. And that was just so disturbing, that it wasn't just the fellow resident she was worried about. It was the employees, and that's very, very sad. There are 3 million seniors in the state of Texas.
Wow.
And every day, 10,000 people are turning 65 in the U.S. So, it's just so important to protect our seniors. And, like I say, you can't judge a book by its cover. Do your homework. When people say you're hiring someone from your church, there's a church job board. Just because
Always.
it's from a church job board does not mean that person is going to be reputable and honest. You want to make sure you do your homework, do those background checks. You can buy a drug test at the drugstore.
Yes.
And that I have found in 13 years, we have given 3 people a pass because they had a loved one with cancer that was smoking pot for reasons just to settle her stomach or this or that. It always backfired on us. So, my brother has this expression, when in doubt, do without. If you fail your drug test, we can't work you.
Yeah.
And with patients on hospice, they're around morphine, lorazepam, Haldol, fentanyl. They're around medications that are those opioid. There's such an opioid crisis. So you want to make sure at the communities, in the home, these people are getting drug tested. And I think we're one of a few. There are 160 caregiver agencies in Dallas, and we're one of a handful that does drug screenings. Most don't, because there's a cost involved.
There's a cost.
But it's worth paying for the drug test and knowing that that's one thing we've never had a problem with. Theft of drugs.
We'll pay out. You'll pay out more in the long run not doing drug tests than spending the little cost on really good drug tests that do screen the 12 to 15 different drugs that we're looking for to pop. And so there's just to let you know too, there was and I haven't talked to you about this yet, but my grandmother, my mom's mom, is in Colorado, and she's in a rehab facility. She has called my mother probably 5 or 6 times because she has either been left on a toilet, and she has a broken femur. So she's there for, legitimate rehab for her leg. Left on the toilet, can't get up for hours, and is miserable, and has her phone with her. By the grace of God, she had her phone with her to call my mom. So my mother then calls the facility in Colorado at the front desk and says, I'm XYZ's daughter in Dallas, Texas, and she's calling me because nobody has come to check on her. They haven't, given her pain medicine, and she's calling me bawling. I think my grandmother's 83. And, still, I think she's starting to get some dementia, signs of dementia, but she still is there, and she's in this rehab facility and not getting checked on. So just making sure that everything's proactive and everything is, and if you have to be the squeaking wheel, the family or the patient client has to be the squeaking wheel, be the squeaky wheel, because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Eventually, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So that was just something that was brought to my attention. And my mom always sends a group text to my sisters and I. We have a family text to let us know. I mean, it's the middle of the night one of these times, and you just saying something and making it aware, making the situation, making the person, the supervisor aware of it is key. So after the first instance, the lady at the front desk said, she was the floor supervisor for the evening, and she said, we will have a meeting in the morning, and that person will be terminated. So she took those proactive steps to start that, process of being more aware or maybe checking. And we've touched on past podcasts about, about the level of, staff that is on floors and things like that. But that just also scamming and having another situation like this, I'm always just praying about it, because you just never know, especially being out of state. So always checking in and checking on the credentials of the facility as well. So I think that's another good.
Well, and you can go to Medicare.gov and you can see the ratings from the state.
Yes.
And so that's why it's so important to have an advocate, because and a lot of people don't have the money, to have an advocate, or don't have family. And but if you do, just an advocate popping by, a niece, a nephew, just checking in at weird times, not just the normal 7 to 3. That's when they have the bulk of their staff. And, we're not going to talk about this today, but just touch on a little bit. One other article I found that just came out that said that Texas is the worst state for nursing home care. And it's the 10 worst states for nursing home quality. Number 1, Texas. Number 2, Oklahoma. 3, Louisiana. 4, Kentucky. 5, Georgia. All in the South. Very sad. The top 10 states for nursing home are Hawaii, D.C., Florida, New Jersey. Colorado is number 5. So it does sound like if they did terminate the employee,
they're proactive.
That they
Absolutely.
are proactive. And so, what you guys did and what the facility did or the community did, they did the right thing and handled it appropriately. And that's the way they should be handling things appropriately. But just talking about abuse, scamming the elderly, we want to make a difference. We want to serve our seniors and love our seniors. And, it's just important that community gets involved, and whether it be churches, community, and just take good care of our seniors.
And the check-ins. I mean, there's just, if we can check in and see how our loved one's doing, see how a best friend's loved one's doing, whatever it is, then that's the start. In Texas, clearly we have some work to do, and together, if we all start those little steps, then we can be on the top list in the coming years. So great information.
And following up, we do have a Pajamas for Seniors. We are collecting for Father's Day.
Yes.
We are doing a Dad's Day Donut Dash in the city of Richardson at Friend's Place. You can drop off pajamas. You can collect them, drop them off on Thursday, June 13th, and we're going to deliver them to area male nursing home residents.
I love it.
And it's very exciting. So we need 466 pair of men's pajamas. So anybody that wants to get involved, we'd love it. It's a great cause, and it's not just a tangible thing. Those
Yes.
pajamas represent so much more, and it just makes their day. It
Makes
makes
their
their
day.
month. Some of these dads, the statistics are that 70% of nursing home residents do not have family or any visitors. So that one pair of pajama on Father's Day could just brighten their day.
And that'll last a long time.
It will. Keep them warm. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day and a
Thank
great
you.
week.
Bye.